Okay, I did a preliminary test. What I did before I put the gears in, I put the gear case cover on to set my armature shaft end play. That's this adjustment here. And what you want to do is have it set so that you can do it by feel. That you want about this much play in it. You can hear it. What's that? That's about 3.5 thousandths. Probably around there. Anyway, I'm kidding, of course. All right, so I set the gear in so that the good part of that pot metal gear is on the worm gear of the driven gear from the armature worm gear. At any rate, here's it running. And it's going to run about. Let me put some light on the subject here so you can see it turning. It's really turning. There it goes. Alright, so this is running a lot better than it was before I took it apart. And you get about 5 amps. And what I was going to tell you is exactly what happened. I got to the bad part of the gear, and look what happened. So if this happens to you, whether it's all assembled back in the car, look at, I'm getting about 8 amps. So the motor's stuck. It's actually stuck. Here's one direction, here's the other direction. So it's about 8 amps because the motor's not turning. So what you can do is put your little thumb wheel on to get it back onto the off the damaged part until it turns freer again. By the way, this is what you would have to do with the hood open to get the buckets to roll up. What a crazy design, really. Because all you're turning is the armature. So for like one turn, let me go one turn. There's a half a turn. Watch how far this goes. There's a half a turn. There's one turn. So you're getting, for every turn of the thumb wheel, you're probably getting about a 32nd of a turn on the headlight bucket itself. At any rate, I'm still turning, believe it or not. You can't see it moving, can you? Anyways, alright, so I got it off that damaged spot. I'm going to turn it back on again with my switch. There it goes. So that's exactly what I was going to try to show you with this little demo. You get to that damaged part and the motor's going to jam up on you. And then what? So at any rate, you want a new gear. And yeah, you do want to try to synchronize the motor so that the motor doesn't actually strain itself too much. But it's just an intrinsic part of the design that you got to deal with. There is a way. I got an idea on how to alleviate that without having limit switches. I got to think about that one some more. That came to me a little while ago when I was playing with this, saying, geez, what a crazy setup. I got an idea. Oh, my meter's talking to me because it's not getting input. All right, we'll give you input now. How's that? Oh, see, it's still acting up. Yeah, I can feel a dead spot. I think there's 2 spots. There it goes. Oh, my wheel is still on. It's going to come flying off any second. So there's my 5 amps. But see, I got to the other end and it just stopped. All right, let me shut down. So that's the idea. The motor's fixed. The motor was the problem. It had dry bushings. The end bushing in particular. This one down here. And you could actually drill a hole in there. One of the guys One of our fellow members has an idea to actually, let me shut this thing off. You can actually drill a hole so you can squirt some oil in there, and that would get you by, and you just cover it up with some epoxy or whatever. That could get you by, but long term you really want to get these things apart, because that pot metal gear is probably toast anyway, been damaged over the years. But I'm thinking of a way. I have to think about that some more. I can't tell you yet, because it could be a crazy idea. I come up with some crazy ideas sometimes. All right, that's it. I'm eventually going to take the rest of it apart, clean everything up good, re-lubricate it. Of course, I have to get a new gear, and I got a bunch of them to get. I got several other motors over here too. My workbench is a mess with stuff. Some of my projects. My chrome generator I put aside about, I don't know, 2 months ago, because I got some other stuff going on. Here's my other idea too, for the headlight buckets. You might like this idea. A plug and play relay pack that will eliminate you ever changing that switch ever again, because all the current normally goes through that. Well, with my design here, it's going to go through those two relays, and it's going to be plug and play. I got to come up with a plug on one end, and I've already got a plug on for the other end. They make this gadget that'll plug onto the switch. This is going to get wired up to my relay box. I did some testing, and here's your existing harness, 63 to 67. This is a 67 harness, but it's the same setup. Red, green, yellow. Red is the feed, which normally goes to the switch, and the switch runs all 10 amps for 2 motors through here. And when one gets stuck, it'll be about 8 amps, so you got 13 amps going through here whenever you roll up or down your headlight buckets. And it could be more, based on how strenuous the motors are working. But anyway, that's going to be it. I got a little work to do underneath. I got to make some modifications and whatnot, but that'll be my next design. A plug and play relay box. All you'd have to do is mount it under the dash somewhere. By the way, there's 2 50 amp fuses for these 2 relays. So you got your 40 amp breaker under the behind the kick panel. It's a 40 or 30, I forget. Anyway, whatever it is, I forget. Which will trip and automatically reset, but this has extra protection. There's 2 50 amp relays here. Fuses for each relay. And then you got 4 extra ports in the future if you wanted to have a constant feed fused go into other accessories. Let's say if you wanted to relay switch your headlights out in the engine bay with more relays, you can use these as feeds to those relays. Be extra wiring, of course. Wouldn't be stock, but you got to do what you got to do, make it work better. And then, or let's say an electric fan if you got aftermarket AC, or other gadgets that you might want to put out there. It's constant feed. So the only other thing you got to do, you got to mount this, or hang it up there with tie wraps up underneath or whatever. And these are removable relays, swappable. There's sockets in there. And the only other thing you got to do is you got to hook up a ground, because the relays are grounded on one side, and the controls for each relay are going to come out here. That's via these wires, and then the feed for those relay. This gauge wire is much too heavy than what's necessary, but this connector is the important thing, and it doesn't come apart easily. You can't really get at it easily, and they're not available separately. But at any rate, so that'll plug into the switch. This has been hardwired properly into the relay box, and the output of the relay box goes to the harness, which goes to the headlights, so that you're relay switching that switch to the headlight motors. with very low power, about 100 milliamps to the coil. It's about 100 milliamps for the coil for each relay. So that's 1/10 of an amp. So that's all that switch is going to see instead of many amps, dozen or so. Okay, that's it for now. Fun with motors.